Hello again, everybody. This is Rocket Rick J18, and today I'm going to talk to you about the 1955 Bowman baseball card set. Um, this is the last year that Gum Inc. would uh, put out a baseball set under the Bowman name, or any other name for that matter, because they folded after the season and really sold their assets to, along with the name, to Topps. And Topps sat on it for, I don't know, let's see how many years, 60s, 70s, 80s. So that's 30 years plus 5 years, 34 years before putting out another set under the Bowman name in 1989. And they put out various and sundry sets of cards after that. They now do the Bowman cards for prospects and Bowman Chrome, perhaps some others under that name as well. I can admit I'm not a particularly great follower of modern card sets. So um, I think the purchase price for Bowman was a relatively modest $200,000. So, what biggest distinguishing feature of the 1955 Bowman set, obviously, is the color TV appearance. TV wasn't a particularly new thing, but color TV was very new in 1955, and I think Bowman was trying to cash in on the popularity of this new wonderful gizmo to have in your house. Um, the first 64 cards have the appearance of light wood frame for the furniture piece of the TV, and then the dark insert for the, either uh, the housing the surrounding the picture tube. And it says Color TV on the front of the card and has the player's name in box letters and inside a white box on the front side. The back side has, some biographical and statistical information along with sort of a little report that sometimes it's a trivia question in the case of an umpire or manager card. Most often, it's a little story that told by the player about how they got introduced to baseball or something of that nature, or it's just some additional uh, information about the player himself. So that's starting with card number 65. The colors reverse. That is the border, which is the TV furniture. Uh, it becomes the dark brown, and the insert becomes the light brown or ash kind of color. Because of the brown border becoming featured in the later cards, chipping is a very common issue, as it would again become a problem with the wood grain set of 1962 and the black border set of 1971. Centering, often an issue. Uh, sizing issues due to poor cutting or cutting problems, problems occurring during the cutting process. And all of these problems contribute to a fairly low percentage of high grade cards from this set. Now, there are some big name players that are featured in the 55 Bowman set, not the least of which is obviously Mickey Mantle, but also, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Ernie Banks are in the set, and there are some other players that are not uh, featured in the top set, like Pee Wee Reese, Roy Campanella, Whitey Ford. They are in the Bowman set. Um, Other important cards in the set haven't been important in the 55 top set also. Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Ernie Banks. There are a handful of variations that are necessary to complete the master set. None of them are of stars, and we'll talk about them later on when we get to the cards. I'll go over the important ones. So let's turn the camera down and look at the cards from the 1955 Bowman set, and we'll see what else comes up. So here's it's just there we go. Okay, so the first there we go. First position is taken by the number one card in the set, Hoyt Wilhelm, and there's his teammate Alvin Dark next to him, card number two. You'll see that frequently, although not always, the cards that are across a single row, those two cards, represent teammates from the same team, the New York Giants in this case. Underneath those two cards are the Orioles pitcher Joe Coleman and outfielder Eddie Waitkus, who is one of those guys that keeps turning up. Isn't that right, Alex? Um, then at the top of page two, you'll see Gil McDougall and Phil Rizzuto, the Hall of Famer. Also of note, Jimmy Pearsall, Andy Pafko. There's Del Ennis and Stan Lapata, the outfielder and catcher from the 1950 Whiz Kids. Hall of Famer Roy Campanella and Al Kaline. Future Pirate third baseman Don Hoke. Hall of Famer Minnie Minoso. Hall of Famer Ed Schoendienst. And also Johnny Temple, Wally Post certainly would be considered at least minor stars. Virgil Trucks, Hall of Famer Nellie Fox, Hall of Famer Pee Wee Reese, and Early Wynn. And down there at the bottom of the page is Vic Wertz. He's the guy that hit the 420-foot out that Willie Mays caught. And We also uh, know about Dusty Rhodes, who hit the 300-foot pop fly home run in the same game, although Rhodes hit his early in the or late in the game, and Wirtz hit his right in the first inning. Um, Nothing too exciting going on that page. There is your friend Bob Friend, uh, and Hall of Famer Whitey Ford and Enos Slaughter. Uh, Kurt Simmons down there at the bottom of the page. Phillies fans will recognize him uh, from the Whiz Kids. He was later involved in a trade with the Cardinals that sent Rick Wise to the Cardinals and Kurt Simmons, or Rick Wise to the Phillies and Kurt Simmons. Did I get that right? No. Anyway, Cardinals and the Phillies were involved in a trade, maybe two trades that involved Kurt Simmons and Rick Wise. Um, and Kurt Simmons was also involved in an accident in which he lost a piece of his big toe when he accidentally stuck his foot underneath his lawnmower. Uh, and that was, he was able to come back and pitch credibly, although maybe he wasn't quite as good as he had been. There's Don Zimmer and George Shotgun Shuba. George is on the famous photograph congratulating Jackie Robinson on his first big league home run. George was in the on deck circle. There's Elston Howard there, most valuable player, and probably should be in the Hall of Fame. Don Larson, who would go on the next year to pitch a complete game, a perfect game no hitter, I should say. Going through a kind of a stage here of players that are more or less common. So Lou Boudreau, not a common, but here with the Athletics, Andy Semenick, another Phillies catcher, Sal Magley, the barber, for his penchant for giving batters a close shave. Johnny Padres, the hero of the 1955 world champion Brooklyn Dodgers, pitching them to a victory in Game 7 of the 1955 World Series. And Hall of Famer Eddie Matthews. Junior Gilliam up there near the top. Solly Hamas went on to manage the Cardinals and other teams. There's Vic Janowitz, won the Heisman Trophy prior to becoming a Major League Baseball player. Anybody think of somebody else who played Major League Baseball and won a Heisman Trophy? Maybe Bo Jackson, perhaps? John Antonelli, Mike Garcia, pitcher for the 1954 Cleveland Indians. Somebody asked me about this. You'll note the Cleveland Indian logo inside the C for Cleveland. This would later appear on a uniform by itself, and would later appear in a stylized C for the Indians. So that lots of changes in the, and now of course they're not the Indians anymore. And there's Hall of Famer Richie Ashburn, Harvey Keene, Hall of Famer Bob Feller, uh, the multiplayer card of brothers Bob and Bill Shantz. Bob was the pitcher, Bill was the catcher. And there's Don Newcomb also. Sam Mealy later played for the Washington Senators and became a future manager of the Minnesota Twins after the Senators moved to Minneapolis. And there's brother Cloyd Boyer, who was a pitcher also. There's Hall of Famer Gil Hodges. There's Ernie Johnson, the pitcher for the Milwaukee Braves and later announcer for the Atlanta Braves. He was on during the heyday of the Superstation in Atlanta with Skip Carey, son of Harry Carey, and Pete Van Wieren. And there's Bill Skowron with the Yankees. Some people may remember that Bill Skowron hit into a double play in the Game 7 of the 1962 World Series, and not a drive-in, but scored the only run of the game. The Yankees won 1-0 when uh, uh, Willie McCovey hit a rocket right at Bobby Richardson, caught it for the third out. But so the little trivia question for you: no run batted in when a run scores on a double play. So no earned runs in Game 7 of the 1962 World Series, which I think may possibly have been the first and only time that that's happened. There's Matt Batts, the former Red Sox catcher, next to Charlie Maxwell. There's 1954 20 game winner, rookie then, Bob Grimm, and Hall of Famer Yogi Berra. Up at the top, two guys that arguably could be in the Hall of Fame, Carl Erskine and Carl Furillo, the Reading Rifle and Oiskin. Hall of Famer Robin Roberts below them, and then here's Bill Shantz, who was on the multiplayer card with his brother Bob Shantz. Here's Hall of Famer Henry Aaron in his first first and only Bowman card, and then down in the bottom right is Willie Mays, of course. Not his first Bowman card, but it was his last Bowman card, and as you can see, it's got a miscut. Former Yankee pitcher Vic Raschi, now on Cardinals. Hall of Famer Bob Lemon. Alex Grammas went on to be a coach and a manager. Joe Nuxall, the youngest player ever in Major League Baseball history at age 15. Hall of Famer Ralph Kiner, 20 game winner on the Pirate National League and World Series champion team of 1960, Vernon Law. Allie Reynolds, one of the big three pitchers for the New York Yankees during their 5 consecutive World Championships between 1949 and 1953. Vic Raschi was one of those guys. Um, and Ed Lopat. And there, of course, is Mickey Mantle, who needs no introduction. Not in the 55 or 54 top sets, but made the Bowman sets in both of those years. And down there at the bottom is Frank Shea, who was the pitching hero of the 1947 World Series. And Smokey Burgess, longtime catcher, here pictured with the Philadelphia Phillies. Hall of Famer George Kell. Three pretty good pitchers. Billy Pierce for the White Sox. Bob Cazava, now with the Orioles, formerly with the Yankees. And Preacher Rowe, now with the Orioles, formerly with the Brooklyn Dodgers. As Del Crandall and Joe Adcock. Joe Adcock was a big, strong man, hit some long home runs, including 4 in one game. Del Crandall, of course, the great catcher for the Braves. Whitey Lockman, the Giants' first baseman. There's our first umpire card, McKinley, former whiz kid and National League Most Valuable Player, Jim Constanti, the relief pitcher for the Whiz Kids, now with the Yankees. Bertie Tebbetts, later it was catcher for a number of teams, and later went on to manage the Cleveland Indians. A couple more umpire cards. Eddie Stanky, the Brat, who later managed the Cardinals and the White Sox. Johnny Pesky, formerly the shortstops for the Boston Red Sox, and the man for whom the Pesky pole is named in right field at Fenway Park next to Ernie Banks. Gus Bell, Hank Bauer, fill out the rest of that page. And on the next page, we have Owen Friend, Pete Runnels, who would later go on to win a batting title. Roy Smalley, the scion of the Smalley family. There's Don Mossy. Pretty hard to not spot him. Now we come to a couple of Hall of Fame umpires, and Al Barlick and Jim Honachek. Some people might remember, if you're a little younger than me, the umpire Paul Runge. Well, this is his dad, Ed Runge. Another Hall of Fame umpire, Nestor Shylock. He would ultimately go on to become the chief umpire supervisor. There's Walt Dropo, former Rookie of the Year for the Boston Red Sox. There's not a Hall of Fame umpire, although his son was also an umpire. This is Tom Gorman. If you're interested in interesting baseball related interviews, Dick Cavett did a show where he had a panel discussion with Tom Gorman, Mickey Mantle, Leo DeRocher, and Henry Aaron. And Henry was not a, had kind of a, at least in those days, kind of a shy approach to things. Didn't really talk very much, but I remember that Leo DeRocher talked enough for both of them. In fact, he talked enough for really all four of them. Although Tom Gorman did a pretty good job holding his own. Mickey was there. I think maybe he might have had a drink or two prior to. This was, of course, long after his career ended, or not long after, but sometime in the 70s, so when he was drinking pretty heavily. Anyway, it's pretty insightful, and it did induce me to get to buy Tom Gorman's book, which came out about that time. I think it's called 3 and 2, I believe. There's Lon Warnicki, umpire, who was a pretty good baseball player in his day. And here's Hall of Famer Jocko Conlon. There's Frank Malzone, who was top player for the Red Sox back in the day, especially after Yaz came up, he became, of course, the featured player. But Frank was pretty well regarded as a third baseman. Some more umpires. There's Al Lopez, the former catcher, and in this case, the Cleveland Indians manager. There's Augie Donatelli. Cal Hubbard is just wearing a suit because was the current umpire supervisor. Cal Hubbard is in the Hall of Fame, and he is actually the only individual to be in the baseball and the football Halls of Fame. Augie Donatelli was a great National League umpire back in the day. I think he might be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not 100% sure. If he isn't, he should be. Now we come to some of those error cards that I want to show you and talk a little bit about. These are cards of Milt Bowling and Frank Bowling. And they were brothers, and they got their pictures switched so that these cards both feature feature Frank Bowling and Milt Bowling. One is not they're both error cards. So this is got Frank's name on the back, but it's Milt, and this one has Milt's name on the back, but it's Frank. Ernie Johnson and Don Johnson. This is Don Johnson. His regular card is back there, and Ernie Johnson's regular card is back there. And this is not Don Johnson. That's Ernie, and this is Don, but it says Ernie on the back. So let's take a look at the backs. There are also there's a Harvey Keene error card, which you saw earlier. The actual corrected card should be there, but I don't have that one, so it's doing double duty. Um, there is also card number uh, 195, Irv Palika, has an error on the back. Well, it's not an error, correction, I guess you'd say. One of them says, the one that I have, the last bio line is sent to Baltimore, and the corrected version says, or has a bio line that says had a 13-8 record, and the corrected version says sent to Baltimore. So that's what I have for you there. So let's just back up to dear old me, and I'll just say this is Rocket Rick J18, wishing that all your collecting dreams come true.